Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be making some coffee. That's right, we're going to make some coffee, good old cup of joe. We're going to be doing it the Menke way. This is the way I make my coffee every single morning. It's kind of fancy, nothing too crazy. I do have a coffee pot right over here. That works too, that's fine. If you have your way of doing coffee, good on you, keep doing it. But if you want to see how I do my coffee, I actually do a pour over every morning. So we have a beautiful Kalita wave. This is a nice little pour over kind of colander, and they have some special filters that go with it. And so I'm just going to kind of show you how I weigh out my beans and kind of do the ratio between water and beans. And I do everything by weights. You can also do stuff by volume. So we're going to get right into this today. Let's go. All right, so right here we have our Kalita system. I'm going to go ahead and pull out a coffee filter. Now I'm going to go over a couple key things when making coffee, some things that I find really important when making coffee. And for those who don't know, I used to actually roast coffee full-time for Cameron's. I used to roast their coffee, and so I still get some of their coffee. This is an organic Velvet Moon. It is a medium to dark roast. It's got a really bold flavor. It's one of my favorites. I really like it. For a dark roast, it's really good. So we're gonna do this. And so for ratios, we're gonna use the metric system just because it's easier. If you're gonna weigh stuff out, I like to use the metric system. I like to use milliliters or grams. So for this, we're gonna use grams. Now, one thing I would like to say is 1 gram of water is 1 milliliter of water. So by volume, 1 milliliter of water is gonna weigh a gram. So that can be helpful. So if you're saying, okay, I wanted to do 400 or 500 milliliters of coffee, then you would just need to know how many grams of coffee you'll need. So if we're gonna do a 20-to-1 ratio typically, so if we were gonna do 500 milliliters of coffee, we would take 25 grams of actual coffee, and that would give us 500 milliliters. That would be a 20-to-1 ratio. So I like to do everything by weight. I have a nice little food scale, so it makes things super easy. So I actually do a little bit more than 500 because I like to put some in my thermos as well. So I'm going to just weigh out what I normally do for my morning coffee. I normally do roughly 47 to 50 grams. All right, so that's about 50. I like to go a little less, especially with the dark roast. So with the dark roast, the beans, each individual bean on a dark roast is going to weigh less than, like this bean here would weigh less than a bean the same size of a light roast. The more you roast it, the more weight comes out of it. So 48 grams of a dark roast is actually going to be more actual physical coffee than 48 grams of a light roast in a sense. So I like to kind of go about 49. We're gonna do 49 there. It's nothing you got to be too picky with. And then we're going to grind that up. So nice there. And I like to grind my coffee fresh every day. So we're gonna go right over to the grinder. All right, so we're just gonna take our coffee over to our grinder. This is a burr grinder. I like to use burr grinders. They're a little bit more expensive than like a blade grinder, like you would see a blade, something like that to chop up. But that's not gonna give you a very consistent grind. Burr grinders give a lot better consistent grind. I started with a handheld crank one, and then I upgraded to this, I don't know how you say it, it's OXO. It's got between 1 and up to 15 with 2-point increments in between. So there's a lot of like customability to how you want your grind to be. For what I'm doing here for my pour over, I leave it on an 8, right in the middle on a medium. You just dump everything in there, put the lid on, and press the button. Not too coarse, not too fine. A nice grind for our pour over. There we go. Nice little grind there, not too shabby. So this is gonna be good. Smells delicious. There's nothing like grinding your beans fresh and making sure you have fresh beans. I like to try and not, keep a bag open longer than a week or so. And then grind it fresh every day really does make a huge difference. So next step, we are going to, we're gonna rinse this filter. So one key thing that a lot of people don't do, and I even recommend it if you can do it in your coffee pots as well, is you have these paper filters, right? They're all fine and dandy, but the minute you get these wet, it's that water that comes out, it's a very papery taste and a very papery smell. So what I like to do is I like to rinse the filter twice real quick, and then rinse out the colander thing here. If we were just to put coffee in here and make our coffee, you'd end up with a lot of papery taste and flavor in the coffee. And a lot of you who make your coffee might actually not notice that because you've been doing it for so long. But even in regular coffee pots, I suggest, before you dump your coffee in there, let the coffee pot run for like 10 seconds, push some water through the filter, get the filter nice and wet, and then dump out that water in the bottom and then make your coffee. It's such a key step that will make your coffee taste way better. It's one of those really, really easy things that can make even bad coffee taste a little bit less bad. Like it's a very easy thing to remove that papery taste from the coffee. So I can't stress that enough. I'm gonna keep harping on that more so than I probably should, but we're gonna give that a rinse and then we'll get on moving with the coffee. All right, so I got my water here in this nice gooseneck kettle. These are really awesome to have too. If anybody makes tea or coffee, like a pour over, these are really good. I got it all the way up to boiling, and I'm just gonna go ahead and we're just gonna rinse this filter to remove any of that papery taste. And I can already smell the filter. Once you get it wet with some hot water like this, you can really smell that paperiness to it. I mean, it's not like bad, but you don't want it in your coffee. It's not a good taste to have in the coffee. And it's a super easy thing that pretty much anybody who makes coffee with a paper filter can just rinse that filter first, and the coffee's gonna taste better. I promise. Cool. Basically, we're just making simple coffee, and if nobody's ever seen a pour over before, this is an amazing way to make coffee. It's essentially, you're making yourself a drip coffee pot. Like, you're just doing the work yourself. So I dump that out, I kind of clear off any of the extra liquid in there, and then I'm gonna dump this out, and I'm also going to give it a rinse after I dump it out. All right, so I just gave it a rinse after I dumped out that paper. I'm just gonna kind of let that sit there. And now I'm gonna fill my thing up, back up with some water. The temperature is gonna drop back a little bit, but it should go right back up. I'm trying to get it into that green range. I try to get it to the water about 200 degrees, maybe a little less, like 198. That's kind of what I shoot for when I make coffee. All right, so our water is pretty much almost up to temp. I'm just gonna kind of give this a nice little shake, loosen everything up, and then we're gonna dump it back into our filter. Let me get the better angle for you guys. Just like that. So now we have a nice, just like a coffee pot. And then we're just gonna, keep track of the weight. So basically, if you were to do 500 and you would do a 20-to-1 ratio, if you were to do 500 milliliters, you would have put, 25 grams of coffee in there. And then you would just basically pour water until you got to 500 grams in weight. If you didn't have a scale, you could just measure it up to 500 milliliters. But I'm gonna actually make quite a bit extra because I like to fill up this bad boy too. But yeah, let's just get right into this. So there's a couple stages with making coffee. We're getting real technical here. So we're gonna go right into the bloom phase. So this is what we do is basically anytime coffee, well, after coffee is roasted, it starts releasing carbon dioxide. And once you grind the beans, carbon dioxide comes out a lot more. And this is fresh coffee that we're talking about here. And then once you put hot water on it, you can start to see it's bubbling. You see all those bubbles? That is CO2 getting released from the coffee. We call this the bloom. So we basically want to get it going a little bit like that, and then I'm gonna let it sit and just kind of let it basically sit for about a minute almost, just maybe 30 seconds or so. Let some of that CO2 gas kind of bubble out, let it do its thing. This is a really easy way to see if you have good fresh coffee, if you make it like this, or even if you make it in a coffee pot, you don't see any bubbling, it's not fresh coffee. Any coffee you buy that's gonna be pre-ground at a store is probably not gonna do this, it's probably gonna be dead. That's the technical term, we call it dead coffee. There's no CO2 left in it, there's no life left in it, and it's not going to taste nearly as good, which is why we grind our beans fresh every morning. It just helps kind of retain some of that life in the coffee, some of that flavor, without that bitterness that you get with older coffee. So we see it starting to stop dripping a little bit here. Now we're just going to kind of go around the edge, and I just like to slowly kind of, because we still have some CO2 gas. If I pour too much water in there, it'll bubble right over and I'll end up with grounds in my coffee, which I don't want. So I just like to kind of go real slow at this point. And then once I get it right about there, I'll bring the spoon in and I'll start stirring it up just lightly. Basically, I'm just trying to make sure all those grounds that were at the bottom are getting saturated with this warm water and they're not just kind of sitting there not getting steeping. Basically, we're trying to make sure everything gets steeped properly. And we don't want to stir this a bunch. I mean, we're not trying to like whip it up and that'll make it more bitter. But I just kind of like to move the coffee around in there just a tad, just to make sure everything gets touched and that everything is steeping properly. All right, and so now if we were doing 500 milliliters, this would be roughly about done. We're right at about the 500 gram mark. So we would just kind of let this drain. We would have our coffee, but we're gonna do quite a bit more today just because I need my coffee in my life and it's gonna be a long day. So we're just gonna kind of keep pouring this over. As the temperature drops on my, little thing here, I'll just toss it back on the stove for like 10-20 seconds while this drains and just kind of keep working it back and forth. So as this kind of drains down, we're gonna keep topping it off, making sure the temperature doesn't get too high on the water. I don't want boiling water. That can make the coffee a little bit bitter, over steeping it. And you can see this nice drip. Oh yeah. All right, so now we got this over 700 milliliters in there, grams, whatever. You can see it's pretty full. So I just like to pour half of this in my thermos and then I'll let the other half kind of run into here. I've been trying different methods to this madness. Again, I'm making more coffee than will fit in this typically. This is why I'm kind of doing it this crazy way. Normally, if you just wanted to make it in there, you would just do the easy thing and you'd have a coffee fill in here. But I want to fill this guy up and this guy up. So we're going a little overboard, but that's fine. It's gonna be delicious. All right, so as we're kind of just working this down, this thermos is pretty much almost filled up. It will be here in just a second. And then I'm just gonna finish off what's left in here in this water into this. So then we'll have a fantastic cup of joe. So that's pretty much full. We'll transfer that. And I'll start pouring some in here. Boom, and you can see we have a nice coffee in there. It's hard to tilt it, but delicious, delicious. And this in this Yeti here, this will stay hot for probably 12 hours at least. It'll be good to go. So that'll be for later. And then this will be what we'll be finishing off here now. Oh yeah. So again, I know this is a lot of work for coffee, and I'm sure a lot of you just kind of grab your old coffee pot and make it. But if that's the case, I will say, try and rinse your filters. I'm gonna say it again, try and rinse the filters. It does make a heck of a difference when it comes to the taste of your coffee. If I had to give a few points, I'd say stop buying Folgers. If you're buying Folgers or that Maxwell House crap, cut it out. Stop buying ground coffee. Get yourself a decent burr grinder and whole bean coffee and grind it fresh for yourself. And so if you do that, and if you cut out the paper filters, like rinse your paper filters, so fresh beans, and wash your paper filters, your coffee will taste 100 times better. I guarantee it. You don't even have to do this fancy pour over stuff that I'm doing. You can make it in a regular old coffee pot, or you can do a French press, or you can do AeroPress. You can do whatever the hell you want. But the point is, rinse your filters. Get good quality coffee, and especially whole bean coffee, and grind it fresh in the morning. I can't stress that enough. Grind it fresh whenever you want to make it. I cannot stress that enough. So we got it all said and done here. We're just kind of letting it finish its drip, and then we'll pour ourselves a nice cup of joe. Let's go. All right, cheers. And just like that, we have one of the best cups of coffee that you yourself can make. I personally know that this is my favorite way to do it, hence why I do it every morning. Takes a little bit of extra time, but you know what? Sometimes that extra time pays off. And it's one of those few things every day that I really look forward to, is that nice cup of coffee in the morning to get you going. Oh, and it just gives you chills. Look at it, I got goosebumps from that. It's hard to tell, but oh, it's so good. So if anybody out there wants more coffee tips or tricks, let me know in the comments below. Again, you don't have to overcomplicate this. This is the Kalita Wave. It is the a pour over. I will leave a link for it in the description for some of this stuff if you want to go check it out, where to get it. But I really enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed spending some time with you guys today, showing you how I make my favorite cup of joe. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic one. Peace, love. We'll see you later. Bye.